TJ, for reminding me. We are talking about ministry, lesson 19. Let's go ahead and jump right into it this evening. Number one. Oh, I got to move the mouse thing. Number one is biblical heroes and historical heroes are always people with a cause. Try to think of a hero, any hero, and you'll remember that, oh yeah, they were one who had a cause that they were trying to take care of. One of my favorite heroes in Scripture is Nehemiah. I preached on him about 1.5 years ago. It's not common that people talk about Nehemiah, even though I think he's a great subject to look at as far as leadership. So he had a cause. Does anybody remember what Nehemiah's cause was?
Rebuild the wall.
Rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. So let's look at that. Nehemiah. It's going to take me a little bit to get through all this one. Nehemiah is one of the people living in, I forget the name of the king he's with, but Babylon has already taken out Jerusalem. He is now, he's no longer living in Jerusalem, but he's hearing news about Jerusalem. Hananiah, there you go, one of my brothers, and some men from Judah came and I asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped and had survived the captivity and about Jerusalem. I'll move here for a second. And they said to me, the remnant there is in the province who survived the captivity are in great distress and reproach. And the wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. Now it comes about when I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. And I said to the king, so now Nehemiah, he wept, he was upset, he kind of came up with a plan. One day he was sad in the presence of the king, which could get you killed. And the king's response said, and I said to the king, let the king live forever. Because the king said, what's going on? Why are you sad? Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my father's tomb, lies desolate and its gates have been consumed by fire? Then the king said to me, what would you request? So I prayed to the God of heaven. And I said to the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor before you, send me to Judah, to the city of my father's tombs, that I may rebuild it. So the king goes ahead and says, all right, I'll go ahead and send you. You go ahead and check it out, rebuild those walls. Nehemiah shows up to the walls and begins to investigate them in the middle of the night. And I rose in the night, and a few men with me. I did not tell anyone what God was putting me in the mind to do for Jerusalem. So nobody in Jerusalem knows what Nehemiah is up to. And there was no animal with me except the animal on which I was riding. So then Nehemiah figures out, okay, this is what needs to be done to the wall. And then he begins to tell the people in Jerusalem, here's the plan. Then I said to them, you see the bad situation we are in, that Jerusalem is desolate and its gates burned by fire. And everybody's like, yeah, we've lived here our whole lives. We know about that. So come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer be a reproach. So we're no longer just known as the once glorious Jerusalem that's got destroyed. And I told them how the hand of my God had been favorable to me, and also about the king's words which he has spoken to me. So God has shown him favor, and God had made the king even show him favor. So the people were like, yeah, okay. Then they said, let us arise and build. So they put their hands to the good work. And after this, everything went really easy. They built the wall and happily ever after. Or so we wish. Instead, the people outside Jerusalem started saying things, going, what? There's no way those Jews are going to be able to rebuild that wall. They're a bunch of nincompoops. They can't do anything. If they did build something, you could like shoot a spit wad on it and probably fall down. What are these feeble Jews doing? Are they going to restore it for themselves? Can they offer sacrifices? Can they finish it in a day? Can they revive the stones from the dusty rubble, even the burned ones? Now Tobiah the Ammonite was near him, and he said, even what they are even what they are building, if a fox should jump on it, he would break the stone wall down. So he's saying, look, there's no way they're going to build it. It's not like they're going to build it a day. They're going to give up sometime soon. And even if they did get anything done, they wouldn't be done with any type of quality. So we built the wall, and the whole wall was joined together to half its height, for the people had a mind of work. So the wall starts to come together. And as the wall's coming together, now it came about when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs and Ammonites, the Ashdodites heard that the repair of the wall of Jerusalem went on, and that the breaches began to be closed. They were very angry. They didn't want this to be rebuilt. This is going to mess up everything for them. And all of them conspired together to come and fight against Jerusalem and to cause disturbance in it. So they're threatening that they're going to come and attack. So Nehemiah says, you're going to come threaten us to attack? Well, then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to set up guards. Half the people are going to be guarding while the other half works, and then we'll switch off. Then I stationed men in the lowest parts of the space behind the wall, the exposed places, and I stationed the people in families with their swords, spears, and bows. When I saw their fear, I rose and spoke to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people. Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and is awesome, and fight for your brothers and your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. And it happened when our enemies heard that it was known to us and that God had frustrated their plan, then all of us returned to the wall, each one of his own work. So Nehemiah had the people guard the parts of the walls that were close to where their family lives, because if you're going to defend anything, you're going to defend your family. And it came about from that day on that half my servants carried the work, while the other half of them held on the spears, the shields, and the bows, and the breastplates. And the captains were behind the whole house of Judah. Those who were rebuilding the wall and those who carried the burdens took their load with one hand doing the work and the other holding a weapon. So even while they were working, everybody had their weapons on hand just in case they ever were attacked. So the wall was completed on the 25th of the month of Elul in 52 days. So in less than 3 months, Nehemiah took Jerusalem, who had no wall, no protection, and was a reproach to the community around them, and had a cause that was driven by God. God had laid it on his heart. He felt it. He felt God was calling him to do it, and he completed the rebuilding of the wall in less than 3 months. And it came about when all the enemies heard of it, all the nations surrounding saw it, they lost their confidence. So these people who opposed them suddenly knew they were up a creek. For they recognized that the work had been accomplished with the help of our God. So when we have a cause by God, he's calling us to do it, then he is with us. And this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Number 2. Yeah.
Where do you go on? It's just a minor thing, probably not significant at all, but why is that phrase in Nehemiah where he said, I didn't have any animals except...
Oops. Mainly because what he's communicating is, sorry, I'm trying to adjust this so that they're not looking at my nose. You guys can read that, right? You guys are muted, so hopefully you can read that. Okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Mainly because he is indicating that they went out stealthily. Okay. That it wasn't like, because when he arrived with all their camels and all the horses and the guards, and he left them behind to secretly go around so nobody knew what he was up to. Okay, a great cause challenges a person, causes them to grow to be like Christ. Want to be like Christ? Then do what God is calling you to do in his causes. It will change you. Lots of times the causes will start little and then grow bigger and bigger and bigger. The person I'm thinking of right now is William Wilberforce. He is a gentleman from England, into the 1700s. He is the one who helped abolish slavery in England. There's a movie about him called Amazing Grace. It came out in 2006. It's a wonderful movie. I recommend it. I enjoyed it. He started off as a politician, and he became a follower of Christ. And when he became a follower of Christ, he said, you know what? I don't know if I want to be a politician, because what kind of politician could be a follower of Christ? So it's not much different than today. It's almost like the same people saying the same thing. But his friend said, no, you need to be a politician, because he wanted to become a theologian. They said, no, you will do more work if you stay as a politician, stay involved in politics. So he does. He goes on and meets John Newton. John Newton is the one who wrote Amazing Grace, a song. He was a slave trader in his younger years, and repented of being involved in the slave trade, and that's when he wrote the song Amazing Grace. And John Newton says, you know what you need to do? William had already been thinking about this for a while, and he says, you need to abolish slavery. You need to get behind this cause and abolish slavery. This is a terrible thing. Get rid of it. So William agrees with him. He has some friends in politics. They come up with a bill. He brings it before the parliament, and it gets shot down. And then he goes and tries another time, and it gets shot down. For the course of 20 years, he tries to get this bill to abolish slavery passed. Over and over, it's just hammered. Finally, he's getting towards the end of his career. He's like, I'm a failure. Nothing's good happened. I might just quit. However, at this point in time, he's gotten married. He has kids. He has friends. They come beside him. They encourage him. He comes up with a plan, or they come up with a plan, and then they are able to essentially, they were able to sneak in a bill that gets slavery abolished in England in about, let's say, it's like 1790s, somewhere in that time frame. And so here's a man with a cause. And as he grew, you can, over the course of the film, you can see him. He's just a normal guy. And over the course of the film, you can see him become more Christ-like, more Christ-focused, and he's able to accomplish something great, something that took us in the United States another 50 years for that to happen. Number 3, God gives strength to people who are pursuing a cause. He will give you the strength. One of my favorite books in the Bible is the book of Judges, because it's the action pack. If you, if you see the movie 300, then the book of Judges is similar. It is quite gruesome in certain parts, but it's a fun book to read. And in it, one of the favorite stories is a story about Gideon. And Gideon is kind of a weakish man. Judges actually, if you start off, the first judge is pretty good, next judge not so bad, next judge not so good. And as they get down the road, there's less and less good. And like the last judge is not that wonderful at all. Judges are simply this. They are more like chieftain. And in Israel, it's not necessarily that, they often start as chieftain in charge of large groups of people. So God uses these chieftain people, but they're not always good people. But at the beginning, they start off really good. Well, Gideon is one of them. And the Lord looked at him and said, go in the strength that I give you and deliver Israel from the hand of the Midian. Have I not sent you? So go in my strength. You're going to handle it. It'll be okay. Have I not sent you? I'm going to be with you. So you get your strength from him pursuing the causes God gives us. Looking at the book of Joshua, Joshua is the follow-up predecessor to Moses. Moses has been leading the Israelites for the last 40 years. Joshua is now being sent into the promised land to conquer it, and this is what God has to say to him. No man will be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Just as I've been with Moses, I will be with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. So when God makes a promise, he keeps it. Be strong and courageous, for you shall give this people possession of the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Romans, Paul's now writing this. What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who is against us. And Paul knew this. Paul was, he was a former Jewish man who was going after Christians. So not all the Jewish people loved Paul. The Jewish leaders definitely didn't love Paul. And here he is trying to witness to the Gentiles, but yet here's facing lots of opposition, even having to go to court, which I'll get into that some other time. But he is saying, if God is for us, who is against us? Number 4, God will give time and resources needed to accomplish great causes. It's funny when you're working with God and you're doing a cause, some things become less important to you. You suddenly have more time, or you are more focused, or you're finding the resources you have are sufficient. You just hadn't really thought about it, or maybe getting other people involved. Nehemiah didn't rebuild the wall. Nehemiah got the people involved, sold the vision, and had the wall rebuilt. Let's go ahead and look at some verses. Everybody good? Okay. No verses, sorry. People who are pursuing a cause are energized, fulfilled, and happy instead of bored and frustrated. I want my kids to have causes all the time. I don't care if it's play. So when they say to me, I'm bored, Mason, what's my response?
I have a chore for you to do.
Yep, I got a chore for you. I got some chores. Want to pull some weeds? My favorite one is, want to clean the bathroom? I need somebody to clean the toilet. That usually motivates. Well, when we are doing the causes of God, not only are we not just bored, but we are energized and happy and fulfilled. Why is this the case?
You're doing it with His power.
Yep. We're doing something God has called us to do, and it's exciting, especially when we start seeing results, even if it's hard. I'm imagine William Wilberforce was sometimes very tired, but he kept going. He was energized. He was encouraged and very fulfilled once that passed.
It's like the point from last week. It said, you're better doing things corporately than by yourself, because his friend helped him corporately, helped him.
Yes. Yes, you're right. And we're going to get more into that in a little bit. One of our major problems is self-absorption. A great cause focuses us on others. Humans do not have a problem with being self-focused. That's why the second great commandment is love your neighbors as yourself. The assumption is you already love yourself. We are absorbed. Have a teenage daughter, and you listen to what they have to say. Everyone's looking at me. Everyone notices me. Everyone thinks I'm older than I am. I've heard those phrases in my house because I recognize teenagers, especially junior hires, are more apt to tell you what they're thinking. Doug, yours is going into junior high, right? Have fun. No, I say the first half of 7th grade is not so bad. It's right around 8th grade, I don't know what happens. There's a change. But having a cause helps us to focus on other people. Number 7, people who are pursuing a worthy cause will do very well at the judgment seat of Christ. So, why would we do better at the judgment seat of Christ if we're pursuing a worthy cause?
When you're trying, you're
Yep.
not focused on yourself.
So when God starts looking at how you spent your time, starts allotting and saying, okay, well, you spent your time serving this person. You spent your time trying to get this accomplished. You spent your time doing this. Those are things that God rewards.
That's the same thing. That was last week's lesson.
Yes.
That talked about showing your works to God when the time comes.
Yes.
I think of Mother Teresa. her whole life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. With Mother Teresa, definitely. Ken, did you happen to see last week's thing yet?
I did.
Okay. Then I don't have to fill you in. You know it. So, okay. Number 8, being involved in some aspects of building the church, the bride of Christ, is the greatest of causes. So the church is often called the bride of Christ. It was brought up earlier. We were talking about what is the church? Is it the word? Is it the building? Is it the teaching? And I said, no, the church is the people. That's why I don't, when people say, oh, we had the pandemic come through and people are going, oh, the churches are closed. No, the churches is not closed. The facility in which we're meeting in is closed. The church are the people, and we're still very much alive, and we're still very active. In fact, the early church often didn't even have a building to work with, and yet grew. So I know the church is not, a facility is not dependent upon the growth of the church. So the bride of Christ was important to Jesus. How important was the bride of Christ, the church, to Jesus?
Very important.
How important, though? Yeah, he died for it. Yeah, he died for it. Matthew 16:18. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not overpower it. Husbands, love your wives as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, meaning he died, and that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, that he might present himself to the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and blameless. Number 9, God is always involved in the birth of the cause in our heart and soul. And faithfulness to the church is a prerequisite to God giving greater responsibility. You can always make up your own cause. People do all the time. Several famous CEOs have made up their own causes. But if you want responsibilities from God, then that starts by faithfulness to the church. Serving the body. We'll get more into that because whose body are we serving? And I'll hit that in a second. Okay, most people don't think they have what it takes to be a great person of God. I'm just ordinary. I have problems. I stutter. I'm not all that smart. So therefore, God cannot use me. Except that God used Abraham, who lied, was a wimp. People said, hey, who's that woman with you? She's good looking. Instead of saying, that's my wife, he said, oh, that's my sister. Sweet, send her on over here so we can have sex with her and marry her and stuff like that. It didn't just happen once, it happened twice. And yet God used Abraham. God used Moses. Moses, who, yeah, he was Prince of Egypt for a while. But, don't think like the movie wasn't that awesome. But then murdered somebody, ran away and hid for 40 years, was a shepherd. At 80 years old, God approaches him and says, okay, I'm going to use you now. And you think an 80-year-old would be mature enough that when God calls upon you that you would respond well. And he's like, well, no, I stutter. I can't do this. Came up with all kinds of excuses. God still used Moses, led the Israelites out of Egypt. You have David, King David, started off really great. Slayed Goliath, was a man after God's own heart. Comes along and messes up his life. He sleeps with another woman who's married, goes mafia style, gets her husband killed, lies about this, and his sin ends up infecting his own family. But God did great things through David and is considered a man after God's own heart. You look at the disciples. Some of them were fishermen. Some of them were zealots. One of them was a tax collector. They hated people of Israel. And yet God used them to do extraordinary things. So God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. So most of us think, well, God only uses great people, except in promise in scriptures. If you look at them, God uses ordinary people just like you and I. Continuing on, we're going to be talking about the church now. What is the church? Jesus loves the church very, very, very much. Enough that he'd give his life. Looking at Ephesians back here again, Ephesians 2:25. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church. Enough that he would give his life for the church. So when it says gave himself up for her, recognize he's talking about the bride of Christ, referring to the church. So when you see this her here, it's a reference to church. It uses a lot of symbolism throughout Scripture. One of the symbols of the church is that the church, there's two that we're going to talk about today. One is the bride of Christ. The second one we're going to be talking about how it's the body of Christ. And there's a difference between the two. Everything that God has done and will do revolves around his purposes of creating a companion worthy of his Son. So here is God. He is creating a companion worthy of his Son, Jesus. I kind of fumbled this one with the girls earlier. I said champion. I kept saying champion when I meant companion. But he actually wants a companion. Just as I am married and my wife is my companion, he wants a companion for the church. Let's look at this in Genesis. Genesis 2:18. Then the Lord said, it is not good for man to be alone. I'll make him a helper suitable for him. So God has created Adam. He goes ahead and creates a new suitable helper, just enough the same, but just enough different from Adam, that they would be good companions, taking care of each other, each having different roles. Ephesians 5:25 goes back to this again. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her. So here, the church is the bride of Christ. It's a companion, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, that he might present to himself the church and all her glory. So if you're concerned, is this really the church we're talking about? Yes, the bride of Christ is the church in all of her glory. Having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and blameless. 2 Corinthians, knowing that he had raised the Lord Jesus, will raise us also with Jesus, and we will present us and will present us with you. So here we're going to be with Jesus. We're going to be presented before God. We have this one more time. Yet he has now reconciled you in his fleshly body through death, in order to present you before him holy and blameless and beyond reproach. I'm actually going to move on. Number 3, we naturally tend towards a low view of the church because we see people now. We tend to have a low view of the church because we see the people in the church. Number 1 complaint, Christians are hypocrites. At least that's what I hear. I love Jesus. It's a church that I can't stand. That'd be like going up to Jesus and saying, Jesus, I love you. I just don't like your wife. How well would that go? But people say that because they don't like the people. They say the people are flawed. Yes, all of us are.
I was thinking, I love you, Jesus, but I don't like the thing you died for.
Yeah, there you go. What you died for is just a piece of garbage. Why would you do that? God's will is that the church grows. That's what he wants. He wants the church to grow because healthy things grow. He wants the church to be healthy. We're going to look at a couple of verses on this. We're going to look at Matthew first. Give you a second here. Okay, Matthew 16. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. Who's going to build the church? Yeah. And the gates of Hades shall not overpower it. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, that he might present himself to the church in all of her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and blameless. Ephesians 4, but speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in all aspects of him who is the head, even Christ, from whom the whole body, being fitted and held together by that which every joint supplies, according to the proper working of each individual part. So here we're transitioning away from the bride of Christ. We're transitioning now to, we're talking about the body of Christ. This is different. And we'll get a little bit more into the difference here in a second. But now he's talking about how each of us are a different part of the body. And a body that is healthy takes care of each other. The immune system helps each other. Your hands take care of each other. You got an itch, your hands goes up and scratches it. Your eyeballs keep you from stepping in the fire so your feet don't burn. Every single part works together. A healthy body at least does. And it grows, at least it should. Causes the growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. Paul covers this, but we're going to move on here. This is also a good one. But we have time restraint, lots of verses. And I think they're on your outline. You can look them up. They're great. It's also talking about how the church grew and how it multiplied here. That's what Acts is going through. It's talking about the multiplication, how the church actually grew. Okay, number 5. God's method for growing his church is faithful, committed people. How does God grow the church? It must be the pastor. Must be his preaching. Or his amazing muscles. Or good looks. No, it is the church that is faithful and committed. Committed people working together. How many ministers do we have in our church? Yeah. As many as we have followers of Christ is how many ministers we have in the church. I am a minister and a pastor. Mason is a student and a minister. Doug is an electrician and a minister. Each of us are a minister in the church. My job is to equip the saints, which is what this class is about.
Aren't you also a shepherd?
I am a shepherd. Yep.
So does that have to do with also the flock as well?
Yep. I'm leading. And my leading is I'm equipping you. And what's that?
So then aren't you responsible for your flock?
I am. As an under shepherd, I am responsible for the flock that Christ has given me. He's being the ultimate responsible one. Not that I'm passing the buck, but yes. And my job then, therefore, as a shepherd is to equip, to lead spiritually, to make sure that correct doctrine is being taught, that everybody's spiritual needs are being met as well. And then also overseeing the deacons and making sure physical needs are being met as well. So yes. But we're all ministers. And so that's my other job. Or not my job, that's what we're all called to do. Ephesians. But speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in all aspects into him who is the head, even Christ, from whom the whole body being fitted and held together by that which every joint supplies, according to the proper working of each individual part, causes the growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. Where did I move on? I've read this one before. Okay, number 6. Our best work will always be in cooperation with other people in the church. We see a lot of this. You get more done when you're working with other people. Cooperation. Mason kind of hit on this earlier. Yep. We talk about the purpose of the church. Worship. Usually the first one we talk about. Then we talk about fellowship. We can talk about the cooperation here. Is this the saints working together? Then you have discipleship, ministry, and evangelism, being the 5 purposes of the church. But fellowship is a key one because we're working together, we're fellowshipping, we're enjoying each other's company. Oftentimes we do that through breaking of bread and through ministering or discipling or witnessing or worshiping together. So you see that it happens together. 1 Corinthians 12:27. Now you are Christ's body and individual members of it. So here we got to get this. Now we're no longer looking at the bride of Christ. We're talking about the body of Christ. You are the body of Christ. So the first body of Christ is when Jesus came here and was born as a baby and lived his life and died on the cross and was resurrected again. That's his first body here on Christ. His second body here on Christ is the church. That he moves through the body, the church, as if it was his own body. So here we are, the body of Christ. So there's a verse there that talks about now you're the Christ's body. There's another verse that says you're the body of Christ. I'm afraid I don't have it in here. And the word of, in English, we have one word that means a couple different things based on how its usage as we determine what it means. Well, in Greek, there was different words that you would use for the word, what we use for the word of. There's one version of which is identification. So the body of Christ, another way of saying the body which is Christ. Now, this is the body of Paul. This is the body of Paul. This is my body. Then you have another type, the other kind of the body of Christ is the possession, the body of Christ, meaning the bride of Christ. So when you see my wife, I would say, we are married and we are one. So I guess I could loosely kind of relate to this, but I could say that's kind of a possession. Like my wife is my wife. It's the body of Paul because we are one body. Just as much as she could claim me, so she possesses me as well. So there's you have to kind of look at the context and say, okay, what's he talking about? Is he talking about the bride of Christ, or is he talking about the body which is Christ, or body which is Christ? So you have to look at which kind he's talking about here. And this is talking about the body. And the eyes cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, or again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. 7, God blesses us as we invest our time and money to build his church. As you use the resources to build the church, God blesses you. Because you're using the things that he's given you. Your time, your money, your resources. And it honors him. It's a form of actually sacrifice. We're going to move on to the last 6. I'm going to try to move quickly through these. I'm going to skip this for right now. Our love for Jesus is no greater than our love for his church. I love God, but I don't like your church. I don't like your body. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. If you
either love all of them or none of them.
Yeah, Jesus, I love you, except I hate your body. That doesn't work. Or like I said earlier, that'd be like someone comes and go, I really love you, I just hate your wife. I mean, that's just not going to happen. Then the righteous will answer him. So what's happening is people are, it's the end of, they're dead. They're before God. And God's like, look, you guys served me. You loved me. You took care of me. You fed me. You comforted me. And the people are going to be like, what are you talking about, Jesus? You never did these things. Then the righteous will answer him saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or naked, or clothe you? I mean, did we miss it? I mean, great, I'm happy I did it, but I don't remember doing these things. And when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer, talking about God, will answer, say to them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it for one of these brethren of mine, even the least of them, you did it for me. Because you did it for the church body, It's as if you did it for me by extension, because I am the church body. And he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Why are you persecuting the body? Is what God is saying to Saul. And he said, how art thou, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus whom you are persecuting. So here Paul is persecuting the church. And he's like, why are you persecuting me? And Paul's like, I haven't done anything against you. He's like, no, you persecuted the church. That is me, Jesus. All right. I'm going to move on here. They're great verses, so. Number 2, our commitment to Jesus is no greater than our commitment to the church. How committed are you to Jesus? Well, let's see how committed you are to serving the church. Why write a check? Great. For some of your resources. What about your time? What about discipling people? What about the things? Some people can sacrifice a portion of their finances, and yes, it has an effect on them. But was it really sacrificial? Did it really hurt for them to give up something? God blesses those who serve him by doing ministry in their church. It's good for us to serve in other places. You start in your church. When you start serving in your church, the first thing here is blessed. You can put like a little star because there's 4 of them we're going to talk about. You're blessed. And whoever in the name of the disciples gives to one of these little ones even a cup of cold water to drink, truly I say to you, he shall not lose his reward. Even a cup of water can get you rewarded. Even refilling the coffee on Sunday morning can get you rewarded. Even cleaning the tops of the chairs, Mason, gets you rewarded, even though it's just cleaning in between services. Everything that we do, even calling on a friend, is rewarded. It doesn't have to necessarily even be here within this church building. It's not like it has to be a Sunday thing. It gets rewarded. Number 4, God gives power to those who serve him by doing ministry in their church. So God blesses you. God gives you power. There's a song that says something like, more love, more power, more of you in my life. Well, if you want that, it starts with serving and ministry in some way. Now, let's talk about this in just a little bit because I skipped it earlier. Ministry does not necessarily have to be what we think is ministry here. Oftentimes we think, oh, you got to do children's ministry, be a deacon, be an usher, maybe you're part of a greeter team, and that's all we think of. However, remember when we had a guest speaker come here, her ministry was dog training. It's using the shape that God has given you. Again, every one of us has been spiritually empowered. Every one of us has a heart, an ability. We have our personality and past experiences that determine our shape. So the things that you do naturally in your life or enjoy doing, you can use that as a way to serve in ministry. It doesn't have to be speaking in front of here. It's numerous different options out there. I mean, if somebody's good at taxes, it's great. Then help others in the church get their taxes figured out. It's using what God has given you and that you enjoy even doing. Oftentimes, we just got to try things out. You know, it's like when Mason started high school, I said, look, you got 4 years to kind of goof around and try different things out that you would normally not try. And he took on engineering class. He's taken on a metalworking class. He's taken a woodworking class. And I never expected my son to say, I really enjoy woodworking. I was hoping he would take a computer class. I'm like, take the computer class. That's going to be the fun one. Man, he's not interested in that at all. He liked woodworking. And I was like, whose child are you? Are you adopted? So, but he experimented with different things and discovered what he likes. Did the same thing with sports. Did running in junior high, thought running was the way to go. I said, try out swimming. I really enjoyed it. Discovered it in my college years. He took on swimming, and he likes swimming more than running. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he likes that more than running. So you try things out. That's how you find out what works. I thank Christ Jesus our Lord, who has strengthened me because he considers me faithful, putting me into service. Here's Paul writing to Timothy saying, look, even I am so faithful so thankful because God strengthens me. He gives me the power to serve him. And he even lets me serve. How awesome is that?
What's that? Is that first or
Yeah, I think it's
1 Timothy 1:12.
God gives joy to those who serve him by doing ministry in their church. So first he blesses you, now he gives you power, and here he gives you joy.
I predicted the last two.
Did you?
How's it happen?
Why would we get joy from serving in the church?
We're serving God.
We're serving God.
God gives us joy when we serve him.
Yep. And we get to see the results of it, and God is pleased with us. I mean, how awesome is that to have a God that is pleased with us? Here's the creator of the entire universe, who knows how many hairs are on your head, named every single star, knows every single asteroid and every single atom in the entire universe. And God has found joy in you. His master said to him, well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things, I'll put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. God is pleased, and therefore we are pleased too. It is great to see people that I ministered to when they were junior high students and high school students now serving in the church. They are a joy to me because when I left the Church of Valley Bible Church, a few of the young adults that I had worked with, who started off, some of them as far as junior high back, had taken over when I left. And it brings me joy knowing that those people I invested in are investing in others. God gives a sense of significance to those who serve him by doing ministry in their church. So you're blessed, you have power, you get joy, and you get significance. So what are you good at? Well, try something. Do it something. Don't just stand there. Do something.
That was last week's lesson too.
Yeah, kind of all flows right into that. Again, you will never know until you try. There's just a couple verses here. If anyone serves me, let him follow me, and where I am, there shall my servant also be. There I am, my servant will also be. Is that awesome? When we are with God and we are serving, we are with him. I mean, that's awesome to say. The master is just like, here's my servant. Here's my bride of Christ. Here's my body. It's with me. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. And then you are honored for doing the very thing we're supposed to do. So why did the church grow a whole lot in the first century in the book of Acts? In a large part because the church understood ministry. Understood the point of serving together, being together, encouraging each other, reading God's word together, being devoted to one another. And after being baptized, Jesus went up immediately from the water. And behold, the heavens were open, and he saw the Spirit of God descending as a dove and coming upon him. And behold, a voice out of the heavens saying, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. God is pleased with the Son and wants to be pleased with the body of Christ as well. Okay, that's it for today. Sorry I took a little bit longer. There's a lot of fill-ins there.
Be sure to end your recording.
I'm stopping recording now. So goodbye, those watching the recording. Goodbye.
That's it.
Bye-bye.